At the Westminster Abbey in London, Charles Philip Arthur George of Windsor has just been coronated as King of the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, Jamaica, New Zealand, and 10 other Commonwealth realms. Although his figure has been frequently discussed and sometimes controversial, after a waiting time of 73 years upon his mother's death on the 8th of September 2022, he became king with the name of Charles III. At the age of 73, he became the oldest person to accede to the British throne after having been the longest-serving heir apparent and Prince of Wales in British history. In this episode of History Pills, we will glance through the origin of the Windsor house and of Charles' life. Will he be able to keep alive this old and quite anachronistic monarchy? We will find it out after the intro. Born in Buckingham Palace during the reign of his grandfather George VI, the 14th November 1948, he was 3 years old when his mother, Elizabeth II, unexpectedly acceded to the throne in 1952, making him the heir to the British Empire. Empire that, despite having a few years earlier lost India, was still a major player in the world playground. Charles's youth was marked by both privilege and tragedy. As the eldest son of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, he was born into a life of immense wealth and status. Yet, even as a young boy, Charles was forced to navigate the difficult terrain of royal life and the pressures that came with it. Since his young age, his introverted and lonely character made him struggle with royal life. He loved arts and painting and spent hours admiring the royal collection of Leonardo da Vinci's drawings. How many kids can claim this privilege? Or by staring to his favorite painting, the triple portrait of Charles I, the first king named Charles, and, funnily enough, the only British sovereign to be beheaded. While growing, Charles developed passions that his father did not approve of. And as a result, he was forced to attend a strict military education. In 1958, he was sent to Gordonstoun, a boarding school in northeast of Scotland, which marked the beginning of a challenging period for Charles. His parents were often absent, leaving him feeling emotionally and physically distant from them. His father did not understand Charles's sensitive nature, which added to the struggles. Additionally, he was bullied by his classmates for his prominent ears, which further compounded his isolation. Only his uncle seemed to understand his personality, and in the subsequent years, they got closer and closer. On the 1st of July 1969, in front of a televised audience, Charles received his investiture as Prince of Wales, marking a turning point of his life. Then, less than a year later, he became the first British heir to earn a university degree, graduating on the 23rd of June 1970 from the University of Cambridge with a Bachelor of Arts degree. It is at this point that he met for the first time what would be the true and only love of his life, Camilla. Allegedly, the first thing Camilla said to Charles was, "My great-grandmother was the mistress of your great-great-grandfather. I feel we have something in common." Ironically indeed, Camilla's great-grandmother, Alice Keppel, was the mistress of King Edward VII. Despite being captivated by Camilla's charm, Charles soon learned about her already commitment in another relationship. It was in 1973, while Charles was away on a mission aboard the HMS Minerva in the Caribbean, that he received devastating news. Camilla had married Brigadier Andrew Henry Parker Bowles on July the 4th of that year. The news shattered Charles, and to make matters worse, his sister also got married that same year. Within a year, Charles had lost two important women in his life. His uncle and mentor, Lord Louis Mountbatten, from the German Battenberg family, was now the only close figure he was left with. Uncle that, among the others, recommended that the 25-year-old prince get on with solving some wild oaths, and the prince quickly obeyed. But how could Charles be related to a German family? Well, to say it all, even the House of Windsor was of German descent. The Windsor surname was indeed adopted in 1917 during the First World War. George V belonged to the German dynasty of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, and was cousin with Wilhelm II, Emperor of Germany and King of Prussia, enemy during World War I of the British Empire. To delay any connection to his cousin and to keep the monarchy stable, George V chose the name of one of his castles, the Windsor Castle. As a curiosity, George V was also cousin, I bet you could not say it from this picture, to Nicholas II Romanov, last Tsar of Russia, but this is material for another story. In 1979, while Lord Mountbatten was tuna fishing on his boat, a member of the Irish Republican Army detonated a radio-controlled bomb of 23 kilograms placed under the boat the prior night. Mountbatten, then aged 79, was pulled alive from the water by nearby fishermen, but died from his injuries before being brought to the shore. The terroristic attack plummeted the country in a state of terror, and Charles to further isolation. A year later, after a failed proposal to Amanda Knutchbull, the prince met Lady Diana Spencer. They had already met in 1977, but this time was different, and soon, without any apparent surge in feeling, he began to think seriously of her as a potential bride. Eventually, after his father pressured him to take a decision, Charles proposed to Diana in February 1981 and got married, in what has been defined as the wedding of the century in St. Paul's Cathedral on the 29th of July. Just 1 year later, Diana gave birth to Prince William, and in 1984 to Prince Harry. Diana soon conquered the British hearts and became the Queen of the People. Her great charisma, visibility, and the many social campaigns for the marginalized put in shadow Charles' figure.
Difficult to find the right sort of word, isn't it, really? Just delighted and happy. And I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
The happy tale, however, soon disappeared. Within 5 years, the marriage was in trouble due to the couple's incompatibility and near 13-year age difference. Charles and Diana's evident discomfort in each other's company led to them being dubbed the Glums by the press. And in 1992, in the book Diana, Her True Story, she exposed Charles' secret affair with Camilla. A year later, their divorce was announced. With the scandal, Charles' public opinion was at its low, but things were to get even worse. With the tragic death of Diana in Paris on the 31st August 1997 in a car crash, many pointed the finger to Charles, and in 2003, Diana's butler Paul Borrell published a note that he claimed had been written by Diana in 1995, in which there were allegations that Charles was planning an accident in Diana's car, brake failure and serious head injury, so that he could marry again. Metropolitan Police carried investigations and concluded that all allegations made since the crash of conspiracy were without foundation, and all the evidence obtained pointed to the death of Diana as being a result of a tragic accident. Meanwhile, after the scandal, and with Camilla now divorced, the two started dating, following a beginning disapproval from his mother, the Queen Elizabeth. After many years of slow playing, Charles and Camilla's engagement was announced on the 10th of February 2005. The wedding was said to be an almost private and civil one on the 8th of April. 4 days before the event, however, it was postponed one day due to the death of Pope John Paul II and the funeral set for that very day. Charles will be the first and only member of the royal family to have a civil wedding. Following his first public event in 1965, Charles has been active in his public duties. Only between 2002 and 2022, he completed 10,934 engagements. Paladin and defender of environmentalist causes, always in love with the arts, passionate about Italian and French history and architecture, he championed conservation, rainforest, and organic farming. In contrast to his mother, always neutral, he publicly condemned political choices against the weakest, such as some acts from Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. Over 70 years, in order to be ready for this moment, and now, after Queen Elizabeth's funeral, the scepter, the globe, and the crown that were taken off the coffin have been handed to the new King, Charles III, during the coronation ceremony. Coronation that for over 1,000 years, except for a few occasions, took place in the Westminster Abbey. Tradition that sets the opportunity for the UK to show off in front of the world at its best. Tradition that portrays power, richness, authority, and elegance. However, is it right for a man to rule over a kingdom because of a birthright? To posterity, this hardest question remains. Each video takes time, effort, and many resources. If you would like to support the channel, support me via the Patreon link in the description. If you like the video, share it with your friends. It helps immensely. And don't forget to subscribe. From today, a new version of this channel is available in Spanish with videos that will be slowly translated. Feel free to visit the new channel, link in the description. Thanks for watching and bye!